Akhetaten's Gates, Chapter 9. "Why did you do that?" he demanded. It was almost like he would start crying at any moment. It was obvious that he was more upset than angry, but still angry nonetheless. "I'm sorry. It was just a joke. I didn't think." "Maybe you should think," he spat, grabbing for the robe. But I absently pulled it from his reach and held him back. "Give it back to me! I order you! How dare you!" Yet despite his demands, I still kept his robe from him. I looked him over. Yes, I knew him. I remembered him from way back then, at my father's party. I could never forget a boy like him. He had grown into some of his features, but there were still others that were exaggerated. His face was long and slender, with such a fine complexion. His eyes, they still appeared to be more Asian in their almond shape. His lips were full, and his shoulders were slender. Perhaps his prevalent collarbone made them appear more prominent than normal, creating an illusion of exaggeration. He stood with a slight slouch, but I suppose that was because of the circumstances. He had a bit of a pot-belly still, as well as wide feminine hips giving way to skinny little legs. It was as if all of his parts didn't quite fit together properly. He stepped back, wrapping his long fingers around his arms, as if either covering his chest, which had a little development, which really is not that uncommon among the male sex, or was either cowering or freezing. Any of these options could have been valid. He had mentioned being cold. He was obviously ashamed about his appearance, and he was showing signs of obviously being bullied. And, well, being bullied by a girl at the present time would not have made him feel any better. "I remember you," I said. He narrowed his eyes into slits. It was obvious he really couldn't see anything in this light. "Do you?" he demanded. "And one look was enough?" He grabbed his robe from me finally. "Go on! Point and gawk! Get it over with!" I blinked, almost speechless. What a horrible thing to say, but it only proved just how much insensitivity he must have experienced. "I wouldn't do that to you," I assured. "Lie! You'll wait until my back is turned and do it then, just like everybody else." "Wouldn't you rather be friends?" I suggested. Whew, what a defensive guy. "I don't have friends." I crossed my arms. "That wasn't how you thought of me 5 years ago." "What?" "That's right," I continued. "You and I were like friends, even if only for a short time when my sister was being betrothed to your brother. It was I who kept you company that night. Do you remember that?" I frowned a little. "I didn't treat you like that then, and I don't plan to do it now. I know that it doesn't feel good to feel like you don't belong. I know it hurts when people tease and say hurtful things or laugh at you. I don't like it when someone does it to me. I would not do something like that to you." He gave me an accusing stare, processing my words and contemplating both their meaning and their sincerity. He squinted some more and got very close to my face. "The things you say. How is it you know them?" "I seem to know many things, and yet not enough," I smiled, hoping to break some of the tension. He grabbed my wrist and pulled me along into a little bit of sunlight seeping in through the window. He looked me over once again. "I think I recognize you. I've only ever met one person like you." "Yeah, that would be me. That was 5 years ago. I heard the children of that household were dead." "Yeah, about that. It's a long, complicated story that even I'm having trouble believing." "I can't even remember if you told me your name." "My name?" I asked, perking a little. I hummed as I rubbed my temples. "I don't know if I did." "May I have it now?" he requested casually. He even held out his hand, as if expecting me to hand it to him. "My name is—" It was then that a light suddenly went on in my head. I remembered who I was. "My name is Nefertiti." "Nefertiti," he repeated, letting my name breathe on a gentle breath through his lips. "That is such a beautiful name. I envy you." "Amenhotep IV," I chuckled. "Are you on about that name stuff again?" "Oh, you remember that too?" He chuckled in return. "I want to change it, but I have yet to decide that perfect name and the perfect time to announce it. I don't want to wait until my coronation." He looked himself over, saddening subtly. His mind had wandered from our current conversation and seemingly ended up elsewhere. "Nefertiti, You once said that you liked me. My appearance, I mean. Did you really mean it? Or were you just being polite to a pathetic prince? Tell me honestly the truth. I won't get angry. I gave him a dramatic European bow, which in itself startled him. Oh, nameless prince, it is not always what it seems on the outside, but it is the care. It is what is in here that counts, I explained, reaching out and placing my finger on his chest, the general area over his heart. It's all in here that matters. I think it emphasizes your unique character. I'm not sure why, but I believe what you say, he smiled, growing pink in the cheeks. Your words, they make me feel good and warm. I smiled at his happiness. I began to wonder suddenly if he had some sort of yet undiscovered medical condition that could trigger such a strange appearance. But even so, I had quite an advantage. For 5 years, I grew up in 20th century America, home of the strangest of the strange. Very little could really shock me. Sure, he may have indeed had problems, but he certainly looked capable, despite his insecurity. More to my preference, he appeared to be so sweet and gentle. He didn't intimidate me at all. I turned a little to lean back on the wall. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a strange shape. I took a glance and noticed Queen T in the shadows. Amenhotep wasn't even acknowledging her. He perhaps was oblivious to her presence at all, despite facing her very direction. Perhaps he not only had trouble seeing in dimly lit areas, but also over a distance. Was it outlandish to think ancient people could be nearsighted? I could see, in contrast to our earlier interaction, that her expression was warm and grateful. How long had she been watching us? Had she followed me discreetly? Had she become worried by her son's outburst? Perhaps she was afraid, if I found him, I would belittle and tease him. She was a protective mother, after all. But she seemed pleased that I could interact with him fairly and with a sensitive heart. Unique, Amenhotep said, going over the notion aloud, making me turn to face him. I hadn't realized he was still contemplating. Yes, I am. Unique. I am. I grabbed him and pulled him into a tight hug, something he was not expecting at all. To top it off, I kissed his soft, smooth cheek. You're beautiful where it counts.